Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, we're done. All right. So Kathy Pagostino and everybody that's coming in now, again, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. And like many of you, my passion is really around seeing organizations thrive and grow, and that's really a common denominator for me. And so with over 15 years of executive coaching, training, and working as a business consultant, I really had the incredible opportunity to help leaders and their teams to grow. Thank you, ladies. So as a former board member of a nonprofit as well, many of you know, for Volunteer New York, and I'm also the facilitator of the leadership program with the Business Council of Westchester, and that's called Star Power. And so, and those two things have really given me insight to so many organizations and businesses here in Westchester, and so we want to bring all that rich opportunity to you as well. So prior to my executive coaching, I was in leadership roles in corporate America, and I saw there was a big disconnect between the values that they proposed, the plaques on the wall, and the ones that they spoke about. Actually, one of the organizations won an award for best mother, best working mother, and we thought for sure there must be another company somewhere with that name because it wasn't one right? So when I saw that disconnect, that really led me to leave corporate and to really start my own business. And really what my mission is, it's very straightforward and it's very powerful. And that is really to help every organization invest in their people and to create a strong culture. And to me, that's a win-win for everybody. So as we delve into the presentation today, we'll share some insights and strategies and really practical applications that you can walk out of here. And it's not just motivational. We're going to talk about ideas. We're going to talk about concrete things that you can actually do. With that, I'm going to introduce Michelle, who I think is coming around the corner here. And you'll get started. So does everybody have the toolkit or the worksheets? They don't have that. Can you go?
Hello everyone, we're excited to be here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about AI and the implications of AI culture and use the future and demonstrate actually to use it. I was on business.
What made you come here today? What piqued your interest in culture? Cindy?
Well, understanding how this now, because AI is what we're hearing about, right? Let's see how we can put it into practice and use it as tools to better our lives.
Yeah, that culture. Everything we know today is changing, right? It's not going to ever be the same. Last year with AI, we said it was a year of like awareness, and this year it's like, okay, I have a shiny object. We're like, we're going to plug and play, right? Yeah. And so what does, so I guess the other question is like, what does culture just as it is today, what does it mean to your organization? Like, how do you define it? What's important? Because really our purpose of the presentation today is really to provide you with a framework so that you have some structure. Things that we hear all the time, not just about AI, is like, where do I start? How do I figure it out? Like, where do I go, right? So, this technology, the tools can help you are really for shaping this purposeful and inclusive culture in your organization. We're going to talk about inclusivity in a different way than the DEI, which is obviously important, but really, AI offers some opportunities to provide culture in a different way. And so what does culture mean in your nonprofit, anybody? I mean, the definition is how we do things around here. I mean, that's a very simple definition, right? Anybody care to share just what is culture? Like, what's the key? What's the passion about it? What's at your heart?
just got through our initial DEIJ toolkit in and of itself, and we define culture as an opportunity to influence our environment as much as our environment influences us. So recognizing that we do have a say at that table, and how can we use it is really how we see our culture. It's not something that lives outside of us, but rather very much kind of influencing.
It's fluid, right? Yeah, it's internal, it's external. That's a great, thank you, that's a great share. Who else has something that they can share that you think about their culture? No? Okay. You want to stand up for the computer? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
sure. So we've just gone from the COVID world where everybody was working at home to our organization has grown, and we now have an office with everybody working there.
How novel.
How novel. And so trying to create a culture that respects what people have been through, where the organization is going, and kind of that tension.
Yeah, so where we are here, where we want to go, and then all this stuff in between that gets in the way, like Well, interesting that you say that, because the American Red Cross, we all know that its purpose is humanitarian aid. Amazing organization, and that's a great thing, right? However, they had a little bit of a hiccup a couple of years ago. So back in 2005, back in 2012, as everybody remembers Katrina, Haiti, the earthquake in Haiti, and then obviously Sandy, which affected many of us here. Maybe we didn't need Red Cross, but you never know when you need that organization. And what happened is they were slow to adapt, they were slow to bring shaking up, and so they really got a lot of criticism. So their mission to bring humanitarian aid, really they weren't living it. And you know what the roadblock for them was? It was really their internal culture and their leadership team. And they were slow to really adapt, because there were so many new ways of doing it, and they were saying, we've always done it this way, and they were always going to do it. And people were like, but you can't with your mission. So they were willing to sacrifice that to be able to say, you know what, the pain, when the pain became greater than the gain, they recognized they had to make a change. Just another quick example, when I last did this talk on culture, it was in 2019, when anybody remember the Hilton, when you used to be at the Hilton? Yeah, right? And so we talked about Notre Dame. And so Notre Dame at that time in April, exactly this time, 2019, they got a fire. And they could have had sprinklers put in. And they said it would ruin the aesthetics. And you know what the fire did? It ruined the aesthetics. It more than ruined the aesthetics. And what's even more heartbreaking, I was in Paris about 2 years ago, right after COVID, or actually kind of like in 2022, and I saw the scaffolding off the side, right down the Seine River. I'm just walking around. The building is totally covered in scaffolding. They take out all those beautiful windows, and you know what's going to happen? Nobody's been able to use that facility, and it's not going to open until December 2024. That's technology at its best and at its worst, right? The refusal of leadership. So you as leaders, that's why we're here today. That's why we want you. And you don't have to be the executive director or Cindy is or somebody else who wants to do here. You can lead whatever role you're in. We're all leaders. We lead in our own way first, and then we lead in our organization. So we all have an impact. It's contagious, whatever energy you're bringing, right? So, yeah. What's our agenda for today? So it's really to create this vibrant culture, right? That's fluid, has structure, but yet it has foundations that it's fluid, right? We're going to build a roadmap. We're not just going to have ideas, as I said, we really want to put things in place. I'll introduce the toolkit. Kil's going to talk about how we can innovate and use our culture to innovate. And then we'll kind of wrap up here. I know you wanted to watch, so I'm sure 12 o'clock. So the importance of organization. I mean, just to show in hands, how many people really feel that that's important in their organizational culture? Yeah, I think we all do that, right? I mean, just as I said at the beginning, we all have a passion to see organizations thrive and grow. And unfortunately, sometimes with AI and any technology, it can hit a roadblock. And so we have to be open. As leaders, we don't have to, but if we choose to be, we have an option, and that is either we can embrace it, and anything we do, change, however it shows up. We can either embrace it, or we can be left behind, and that is unfortunate, what's happened to some organizations until they get back on the right track, right? So, I think that's what I want. So, you know, again, I mentioned like how we do that. So why do we really care about this? And all of you raised your hand on that. It's really because it drives into engagement satisfaction, right? How our people show up for work on Monday morning is so important, right? Is there anybody that ever worked in an organization that Sunday night about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you get that knot in your stomach? You just don't even want it. You just, all you can think about is what's going to be on Monday night, right? And so that's a tough place to be. And so that's actually one of my reasons for being corporate. My part was just to drive under that parking lot. You know, like it was outside, it was like, because I just felt so out of line with the values of some people in America. I'm not making it happen anywhere, but not so down for America. Lots of good things to do. But, you know, so influence organizational performance and outcomes. So we're all here for results, right? We want to serve more people. We want to help our employees give them great jobs and create a culture. And then it shapes. And I think you mentioned, I'm sorry, I don't think you made more this. Yeah, the external perceptions of relationships is fluid, right? It's internal and external. What we think happens on the inside, it's seen by the outside. It is. Their values and their actions don't match up. There's a gap. So the key components we're talking about today, that this will lead us to our solutions and our foundation. And so really values and actions, as I said, if there are myths between them, like I saw in some of the organizations I work for, we fail. And if we see that connection and that alignment, and then we can move forward, right? So sometimes we hit some hiccups and it's never a straight line, but we will get there. And so with the Red Cross, it's like we saw that, you know, they were staying their course and they were like, you know, I'm sticking to my story and I'm going to be right. And so what happens, you know, everybody loses when situations like that happen, right? So the inclusivity that I talked about, I mean, we're always mission focused. I mean, that's nonprofits in particular. I mean, even in my company, the first things I do is set my values and my mission for why I do what I do. You don't have that alignment. But diversity and equity, sometimes we're hearing about it. Then you heard about it in articles about DEI fatigue. Yeah, right? So I like want to open up. We know how it works in organizations, how it's supposed to. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But I wanted to talk about inclusivity in terms of like the technology. So one of the things that you might not think about it, but like sort of the way we can think of it, right? So just talking to an organization up front, one of them here at the table, we told I have a table there. And one of the things that we heard was that, you know, it's not the technology people in the organization or the tech team. It's just people coming into work and saying, like, you know what, I've been trying this. Hey, I've been writing an email with that. Hey, I use it to do some data analysis. I use it for, and like, it's those people that I want you to say, just don't go to your tech team, go to anybody in the organization that shows excitement and innovation about anything, but especially about this new thing, which everybody seems to think is new, and it's actually the last system 50s. That shocked me after you hear that. We just didn't see it as much, right? And so really thinking about inclusivity, about including everybody in every aspect, not just in, like, you know, who we hire, but how do we think differently than us? And that's really valuable. And then again, always transparency. The first thing when you say you're going to bring change culture, people are like, oh, I'm scared. Technology, they're like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. So really having that communication, that transparency is so valuable. And so the solutions, some more or less solutions, right? So we're going to talk about the toolkit. Everybody should have gotten the toolkit in the back, and if not, we have a worksheet here for just the toolkit. What? Oh, and mine wouldn't have been in there. Yeah. But if there were extra chocolates in there, I'll take those. Okay. Those there, so over Lansing, Westchester. That's a really good one. When I go back, I'm going to get more time. Oh, you were looking for that toolkit? Okay. We killed somebody a couple things. Okay, I keep passing it out. I just want to talk about that. So it's not just the ideas, but we really want to create this roadmap, this structure, but yet to make sure everything's good enough that you really have some places that I don't think so good. You know, we want to tap into where we're going. So again, at the beginning, I said, you know, all organizations that drive the road, that's what we're looking for. So we encourage you to refer to the reference toolkit. There's lots of things to take home with you too. And if you didn't get it, you can hit that card. Oh, actually, we'll send it out there. So we sent you a PDF and you'll get the PDF. This is the whole thing.
It was just serious.
It won't be that detailed, but you'll get the overview. And then the really thing, as we go through this stage, you think of one strategy one thing, just one thing that you find here today, whether it's on hillside mindset, just find one thing that you want to focus on. Because you know what they say about chasing three squirrels, right? You don't get any. So shiny object, I'm there. So really focusing on that one thing today that you can walk out of here and you can take back to your organization. All right. So. Okay, just tap in before we do get to that toolkit. I promise we are. So if you notice, tools are at the top, a tiny, tiny piece. And it's like the little icing on the cake. What's really the foundation of everything for people, right? People-centric, everything, people first and then technology. People first and everything else will follow. And where do we find it? Again, those values of behaviors. Like when they align, everything else follows, right? So that's really what I just wanted to mention to you. And you know, whether that's our client, our staff, or whatever it is. I once worked with actually a lawyer in the firm for 18 years. And my whole total mission in 6 months was to get her to think of her employees like her clients. It was such a foreign concept to her. At the end of 6 months, she said, I think I got it. I'm like, you good, right? Because what was happening during COVID, I mean, I know it sounds kind of silly, but during COVID, they could just recirculate the paralegals or her appointment people. During COVID, paralegals became like unicorns. You couldn't find them, and they're like, just stop that. Just help her to stop, like losing people. Obviously, 18 years in a company, they let it go way too long and get culture, right? Tolerating, you know, rainmaker because everybody else is sacrificed for that. So really staying on task for, you know, just thinking of everybody in the organization and all. Customers, your clients, everybody in the organization matters, right? So that's our sort of framework, just as a reminder. And so we'll talk about the toolkit now, right? So here's our framework for it. Assessing these first 3 blocks here, assessing the current culture design, the design culture, and then all the things. So those 3 steps are really where we want to put that foundation in place, right? So if you think my culture's fine, everything's great. It may be. I can just tap into it. It's always good to revisit it from time to time. If you're thinking that things are changing and there's different competitors out there with more people vying for those dollars, those foundation dollars, if you're thinking that our culture's always been working, but you're seeing some little cracks, it's time to change it up. So that's the first part of it, where we often like do the foundation of it. And then the second half is really about implementing and monitoring. Again, it's not a a one and done kind of thing. It's something that's always moving and evolving. Sustaining and evolving culture, so keeping that culture stable. And I love what you said over there, that it's inside and outside, that everybody can see it's very visible, right? And then innovation and technology. How can we help us be more productive and how can we do better than that, right? So one of the things that we say, now just before I go to the framework, okay, there's 7 mistakes when people think about culture that often get them in a lot of trouble. So one is the leader scream, fanfare first. Like, wow, we're going to change it. People first of all can change it. We all know that, right? And so they're not going to embrace it, trust me. And so the fanfare first. Like, oh, we're going to get all excited and then nothing happens. Or you do the boondoggle retreat. We all go to the retreat and we come back with a motivational speaker. And we come back and we're like, we're still in the same place. So just preventing a few of the pitfalls, right? Tell employees, you go first. Like, here's a new thing that we want to implement, and you should go first. I worked with a government agency, and the leaders were like, the big group. And actually, I met them. That's the last time I spoke at this nonprofit. And they're like, we need to tweak in our culture. And they were absolutely right. But anyhow, so they kept saying to me, so when do we start telling our next level to start implementing? I'm like, when you come back and you tell me that your employees say, oh, I see you're doing something different. I see something's changed here. It could be as simple as the HR person deciding that when somebody comes in to have a problem, by the way, that's their job, that's not an intrusion, that's what they do. You put your laptop, you put your phone down, you turn off your laptop, and you give that person total attention. And that was her one goal and mission. And like, tell me 3 people came back and said, oh, I had a better conversation about that. Then we can start with the chocolate fountain rolling down. It's not you go first, it's you do it first, and then lead by example, right? It's also not the Chinese language. We'll pick 2. What 2 things do you want? We're always going to implement this one, right? And then next month it's another 2. So really stay with the strategies that you have and not keep adding to them, but if you add one, you take one away. And that's a hard concept that we're gonna look at. That's a hard, but you can't just keep adding to and not take away, right? Because otherwise you just water it down. Again, chasing three squirrels, you get nowhere, right? So if you have an idea, has anybody read a really good culture book about culture? Anybody read that? Thank God. Because you can't just dictate, here, read this book and we're all going to develop this culture. It's not a one size fits all. That's what we're trying to do here, make it work for you so that it's individualized and it really works for you, right? And then become aware of the gap of what you think your culture says and what it does, and ask your employees from time to time. Did you hear about walk management by walk and run? Ask your employees when they go out. Like, what do you think your culture really represents? Who you are? I know it's written everywhere, but like, ask them, let them ask for an example. Like, can you give me an example of like what you got right? Can you give me an example of what you do better? And so really just reminding people so that it's always happening, right? Right, so here's our toolkit. It's in your paper. Right, so there's 8 steps. That's not right. Right. So on the first page, let me take this off. We're just going to do high level because we started a little late, but you're going to take it home with you and have it. Again, remember, think about one thing that you can walk out of here and you can do, right? So assess the culture. I even gave you a timeline. So what do they say about a good idea is just a dream until you put a timeline, right? So we want to put a timeline behind it. Maybe it's bigger, you have a bigger organization, it's a little longer, again, it's fluid, but putting a time like this, because you can talk about culture and core values, and I sat on some of those, they can go on forever and ever. Like, you have to get it, right? So just like, we'll get it to 80% and we'll move on, right? So thinking the end in mind, that we're going to be done with this in X amount of time. So you always want to start with the end in place. I don't know why that seems like a hard concept, but human nature, we just don't get that, right? We start at the beginning and then we try to figure out the end, like the GPS. I think it's been the one thing that really does help us. We put GPS on, we know what the end result is, we'll get there. So we can think of this as roadmap as our GPS, right? So, conduct the surveys. I just mentioned, ask your people. It doesn't have to be an official one, but you can use those if you like. And identify the key themes, the priorities, the purpose, and inclusivity. So you can walk through this. I'm just at the high level. So start defining that culture. When I ask people, people always say, I didn't want this to happen. I don't want our culture to be this way. Like, what do you want it to be? And that's a hard question. Like, what do you really want it to be? That means you're eliminating a lot of other things, and you're focusing on those 1 or 2 things that really is going to define. So after that, you can use feedback. There's lots of ways to do that. I just gave you a few of them. Glad to help anybody kind of walk through this. Develop your action plan, and that's really key, right? Because after you take these couple steps, you want to get ready. Talk about a strategy. Again, don't keep having things on, and I hear it so many times, without taking things away. And it's hard to do, but it's really necessary. Otherwise, people feel overwhelmed with everything is going on. A recognition program, it doesn't cost anything to send someone an email that says, wow, great job. So you doing that. That's a freebie, and that goes a long way. What do people care about? Right? They care that you acknowledge them, that they exist, and that they're important. Always buy a handle, right? People always buy a handle. And so implementing and monitoring, that's ongoing. That's like never stopping. So that's why we're here today. We're always going to fix that, right? And so, you have to assign somebody to really be in charge of. You can't just be, you'll be it. Like, it's really being a thoughtful process and inclusivity. We're really willing to take on something here. Right? It's just a no-brainer, but really having people that have responsibility and accountability for it. Even before you walk out of a meeting, like, who's going to do what next? And just having people go around the table and say, this is what I'm going to do. Or if you're doing a Zoom meeting, you can just put on AI notes, and it'll send you what everybody else promised to do. And when your name is mentioned, you'll see right on there. Another great way technology can help us, right? So it's really helpful. I love it. It also tells you how much time you talk to somebody else on. But if I'm the speaker, I usually excuse like, I'm supposed to do that, right? So leveraging and exiting, existing resources. So, it doesn't always cost money to do that, right? How can we repurpose things? How can we get things in? I mean, technology is going to help you. AI can help you save so much time. I can't even tell you when I write an email, like that's just one of the simplest things. And if it's more than 3 lines, then I put it quick in ChatGPT or whatever Gen AI you want to use. I'm just like, here's who I'm sending it to. Here's what I want to say. I want to be friendly and nice, but I'm going to say no. And I can do that better. And I still look like the good guy. So it's kind of like constantly thinking right? And so really walking through this, right? So it's, embedding the culture in everything, everything like we do, everything we talk about, everything we do. And so if your organization or wherever you work, whatever piece of the organization you are, like innovation is so key to us today, right? We saw 2 examples of the Notre Dame and the Red Cross. They lost their way because they were stuck in the mud, right? They were stuck in the road. So just think about innovation, how it can change us. I know it's scary, but let's embrace it and be safe, right? We can be safe with it, but to stay away from it, we can hurt ourselves a lot. And then just evaluate and adapt. Like, do this orderly. So it's not, again, a one and done, like really stuff that. None of this stuff is like rocket scientist stuff. I'm sure you've heard all of this here, but it's today just having a process and having a structure and able to do it. And celebrate those successes. Again, like we email, just a gift card for $5, nobody cares how much it was. It was that you thought about it and you recognized them, right? And then fostering that culture of appreciation and acknowledgement. And I think that goes such a long way. People love to get acknowledged. Most people actually, there's a lot of statistics that will tell you that in culture, in an organization that has good culture, people will take less money if they love their job and the people that they work with. And one of the biggest things about companies, people staying in companies longer, you know what it is? Anybody know what it is to keep people in companies longer? Having a friend there. So who can we be a friend to, right? So that's really the toolkit. You can read it too. I know it's a high level, but there's lots and lots of good structure here for you. And then I'm going to turn over to Kim, but I just wanted to wrap up with, the last thing that I would like to say here is next step, right? So thinking about it, just come up with one idea that you can walk out of here with. If I didn't inspire you, Nikhil definitely will. People follow him around after he's done talking, so I just say I talk for a little while. Oh no. It's like he's a magnet after he does all the magic, right? And so, I presented a few ideas. Your purpose and your mission will stay, but how you do it is what's going to change, right? So our goal is to give you ideas to help you provide some structure, but also to give you some inspiration here, as well as concrete ideas. So Nikhil is going to take you through the process. We have, before you move on, 10 minutes, we want to leave a room for quick Q&A. Sure.
Just one quick question. You talked about conducting this desk survey, and you said you can use one that already exists.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, actually, there was one back there. If it's not back there, I'll find it for you. It's like, here's how you can, a little checklist, but if it wasn't back there, there was a bunch of them there. It was just, is your company culture ready, right? Or ready for change? And if it's not back there, let me know and I'll send it out to you. And I'm always glad to answer any questions. Please feel free to take a card and give, there it is. Yeah, so are you culture ready? And so, for change, right? So, if we didn't get it as a quote. I think Joe's going to chat for a few minutes, give us a demonstration, and then we'll open up for Q&A. We want to make sure we can answer your questions. I know after Joe speaks, you have lots, I will too. And,
Does it work? Hello? Oh, perfect. Oh, but thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. So, my wife and I, we have this Sunday morning ritual. We spend an hour in a coffee date when the kids are sleeping. It's our moment together where we just chit chat, we bond, we talk about stuff. So it was one of those. It was in one of those coffee dates. So it was in one of those coffee dates. I was telling my wife about AI and everything it can do, and it can do this, it can do that. And then she's asking me all these wonderful questions. We were like hitting it off, going back and forth. And in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, this AI thing is going to be great for my marriage. Maybe I need to fire my therapist now. So as I was talking, my bubble completely burst because I looked at her and she was terrified. And I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, this thing is terrible. It's going to take away 30% of my work. It can do 30% of what I do at work. It can spread all this misinformation. It can do this. And she was horrified. And, this wasn't the first time I heard these stories, because every time I go into the community and I talk to leaders like yourself, I hear the story repeated over and over again, is this is a big unknown. I kind of know what it is, but I'm scared to take the jump. Is it going to take my job? Is robots going to take over the world? And it was in that moment when speaking to people like yourself, I decided I'm going to spend my time and resources in demystifying AI. Sure, it's scary. The fear is legit, but I truly believe that technology is here to assist us and not replace us. So imagine a time where you're using AI as an assistant to do your work faster, to do it better, new ideas, and that's kind of the end state that I'm envisioning, and I hope by the end of this talk, you're envisioning as well. So in the next 8 minutes, I'm going to talk briefly about what is AI. I'm going to demonstrate AI as an assistant. So we're going to do a fundraising campaign using AI as an assistant. And we're going to talk a little bit about the cultural implications. So AI is not new. It's been there for many, many years, as Kathy said. So if you've been on Amazon, if you've taken an Uber, you've used AI already. The difference now is, after 2022, it's come out of the corporate world and into our hands. So it's basically a computer model that's learning a lot of data, everything about us, and it can do human-like actions. So it can research, it can summarize, it can write for us, it can do analysis and much more. But we can't blindly follow it, because as we all know, there are risks of using AI. So the way I'm seeing it, these are assistants that don't complain. They work 24/7. They don't ask for overtime pay. But you still need to incorporate it into your workflow, your organization, and into your culture.
They don't ask for raises, right?
They don't ask for raises. And that's why my wife now uses more ChatGPT than she asks me any questions. So I'm going to demonstrate two examples, two if I have time. I'm going to give you a situation where it's going to engage past donors who haven't donated or contributed in the last 3 years. And then if you have time, I'm going to show you how I'm improving my marriage as well with AI. But the whole idea being, so here's the situation. So you are the development officer. You're creating a campaign to re-engage these past donors who haven't really donated or contributed to your mission in the last 3 years. So the goal really is, how can we create a campaign that's faster, some new ideas, use some data to be more relevant, and do more of these, going forward. So I know this example is about fundraising, but whether you're in finance, whether you're in operations, you're in HR, whether you're in program delivery, this is the same framework you can use, thinking about what task am I about to do, and what are the steps in that task, and where can AI be my assistant. So I know this is going to be high level, not everyone starts a campaign like this, but if you're starting a campaign to engage past donors, maybe your step one is, I want to identify who I want to talk to, right? Who are those people who stopped contributing to our mission in the last few years? And then maybe your next step is you want to understand what motivates these people to come back to you, right? Maybe your third step is I want to start developing the strategy of how I'm going to engage these past donors. And then I want to create the message. So it's from start to finish. And this is how AI can assist us, is where you analyze the donor base of past donors. You can use it to research kind of trends. You can use it to brainstorm, and then you can use it to actually create the email or the LinkedIn post or the social media post with AI. So now I'm going to demonstrate this in action. So this is ChatGPT. There are a variety of tools like Kathy mentioned, so I'm just going to start with this because it's easier. So I'm going to give it a quick question just in the beginning. I'm going to say we're a nonprofit organization. Right, so I'm saying we're a nonprofit organization. We're going to engage donors who have not donated in the last 3 years. Please give me 5 ideas. Help me brainstorm. So this is the brainstorming part of the process, right? So it takes a little bit of, it's probably an internet connection, but it's going to come back and say, sure, I can help you brainstorm. There you go. All right. So now it's giving me ideas on how, this brainstorming ideas. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually give it data. I'm going to give it the United Way's mission and some other things from their website. I could have taken things from the annual report, from anything, and I can start putting in data, and it's going to take in data and make that recommendation more relevant to the organization.
Okay, I think, so what happened is after November 2022, if you have a free version of ChatGPT, it's not going to have that data. So if you want something more relevant, you have to add the data in. So that's what he's doing. And then once you add it in, then it can make more predictions. We also have some prompts back there for nonprofits and for ideas or your board members, if anybody saw them back there. If not, we have some more over here.
And is the data then publicly available to everyone on the service?
Yes, and even a free version, but it will tell you after a certain date. So if you say, who's going to win the Super Bowl? I tried it, but it'll say, I don't have that information because it's not, it's too, it hasn't happened yet, right? So but you can feed it new information as it's doing, that'd be sticky. And so when you feed it more information, it'll say based on the new information, here's what I'm saying. It's going to process the old data and put in the new data.
Right.
And then bring it.
But I guess what I was asking is if it was donor information, then when a different nonprofit does a search, your donor information is available to them.
You don't have to put the name in, so you just don't feel like
Got
that.
it. But it would be good.
As a known organization, but if you're doing your own, that's a good point. Yeah, so I I was doing a company yesterday, I wanted to get some information, and about the company, get more, give me some back information. So I took out the name of the company, so I just put in X company, and so that you're not feeding that into the public information. Yeah.
So I'm going to move to the recorded version of the demo because it's slow. But, so I don't know if you can see it, but I put in, give me 5 ideas for a campaign. And it says, of course, I'll be happy to assist you. Give me your mission. And then I go ahead and I put in the United Way mission. I just copied and pasted from the website. And if it's public data, you can put it, what you want to do with data is you just want to, if it's sensitive, you make a judgment on whether you want to put that or not. So because this is public available on the website, it's fine. So, and then it says, thank you for putting in your mission. Here are 5 strategies that you can use as a campaign theme to re-engage donors. So it's going to give me the top 5 or the top 3. And the next question I'm going to ask is, oh, I love what you tell me about number 3. Can you give me a deeper dive on number 3? So here I'm getting it, I'm interacting with, engaging with it in a more research-oriented way and brainstorming-oriented way. So you can see it's getting top 5. I'm like, tell me more about number, I don't know what I did, let's see. Tell me more about number 5. And at here, it stopped working, and it does that sometimes. But you can hit the regenerate button, and it'll just say, okay, sure, I'll tell you more number 5. So if you like an idea, you can take a deep dive into it and say, okay, so it's telling me more about number 5. And then I say, then I get into my mode of, okay, I'm done with my brainstorming, I want to research some stuff. So then I say, I tell it, what motivates donors? Can you tell me latest trends in that? I can say, tell me, how would the Red Cross or the American Heart Association think about this, right? What have they done? Or what are the best practices for, motivating donors? So once I say that, tell me more about what motivates past donors. It's going to go out there and get all those best practices. It's even going to look at other organizations that have done a great job and bring that to you. So this, I'm in research mode, and this is going to be my last prompt after this is, now that I have enough as a first draft and enough thoughts, I'm going to go into create mode. I'm going to say, can you write me an email, less than 100 words, make it warm and friendly, that I'm going to send to these donors that will help them re-engage. And also, while you're at it, write me a LinkedIn post. So we'll give it a second to. So now it's telling me, write me an email in 200 words. Using all the data I gave you and using the ideas you've given me, write me that email in 200 words that I can send to my donor base. Right? And it's going to write me an email in 200 words, but you don't want to blindly copy the email. So the way I use this is, what I do is, I'll think of a task. I'm going to do this initial research, brainstorming. I'll make it write stuff for me. But I don't stop there. So there's a lot more, but I don't have a chance to show you now. But I'll take this to my team, and I'll say, what do you think? So I'll take it to my team. You can take it to your boss. You can take it to your partners and say, hey, I've done the initial work of brainstorming research. Let's have a conversation now about this, right? Versus starting from scratch. So now they look at it and say, oh, we never thought about this idea. Maybe you can do it this way, we can do it that way. So suddenly you're co-creating. And then you take that feedback back and feed it back into this and say, hey, AI, what do you think now? Can you create something even better than with this? And it will do that. So it becomes this iterative process of human working with AI or humans working with AI and creating something really impactful and beautiful while it's saving you a ton of time.
You said you can upload documents to this. How do you do that?
So there's an attachment link here.
Yeah, and this is the one that's on right?
Yeah, this is the $20 per month version, where the 4.0, free one you
Yeah,
can.
you said the copy and paste.
So what I do is, the other thing I do is, I read a lot of long reports. So if you're reading the nonprofit compensation report, it's like 50 pages, 100 pages long. You can upload it right here, and you can say, tell me what this report is saying. So instead of spending, 2 hours reading the report, I upload the.
Think about what the person who wrote that.
Yeah.
You put a picture of the dashboard on there. I received like 1,000 data. It can help you define what that dashboard is and how you start.
Yeah. So if you're reading a report that has a lot of data in it, you can upload the report and you can say, summarize the data for me, tell me the key recommendations, tell me the challenges. So think of it as like you're sitting in front of someone, you have this long report, and then you can ask it questions, and it'll tell you everything that's in the report. And you can then start creating more ideas out of it. So based on this report, what can I tell my board members? What can I tell my board? And it's going to write an email to your board summarizing the report.
How do you upload that? Because I haven't seen that from the AI that I use.
Are you in the 4.0?
You have to be on the 4.0.
It's in the corner of my thing.
No, Mary Ann, you paid for it?
Yeah. That's what
$20, yes.
Yeah, the question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, can you give it a link to a page? So for instance, I have a digital annual report. Can I literally just put the link to the digital annual report in there and get it to tell me something?
So in this version you can, but if you create a custom one, you can enable that feature. But this is just one AI tool.
Yeah, there's Gemini.
There's Gemini, there's Claude, and they have different capabilities where you can do that.
And even inside ChatGPT, the free one, there's a co-writer. So don't just use, the chat, there's a bunch of different apps that say explore what's in here. So if you write an email, it goes to that app, right?
Right. Right.
I would very much appreciate, like, we talk about impact, right? And so, research-based practices, great. But the impact in terms of like fundraising, I just wanted to hear more thoughts on if nonprofit organizations are not sharing with them the quantitative results of appeals, how does AI know what is impactful? It's one thing to, understand best practices and understanding, what's out there in terms of nice writing and out there that, could potentially be influential, but I think that, relating back to the culture, every nonprofit's donor base has its own culture. And so how are we factoring in, that kind of, I guess, more data-oriented information regarding, AI and the culture?
Right. So let me make sure I understand the question. Is it more about how do I communicate the impact using the data we have?
It's like a combination of both. I mean, just what works for one organization may not work for another organization. Writing is one thing, but the actual result of that writing is something else.
Yes.
And so I'm just not sure about the connection between the two.
Sure. So let me give an example of what we've done before and see if that resonates. So that's a really good question. So what I've done before is when we start thinking about how do I make this relevant for my organization, more personalized, so it's communicating my organization's values, my organization's culture, my organization's data. What we can do is we can teach AI about organization. So I had put United-based mission statement there, which is very generic, right? But in a different version of ChatGPT, you can start giving it information like, here are maybe campaigns or fundraisers we've done, or impact stories we have that work really well in our organization, that people have responded to. And you feed that information. And you can say, here's the data we have about our impact that we've had in the community. You put that information there, right? So the more information you give it about your values, your mission, even your people, like the impact, going as many years of data you have, now suddenly this AI becomes very smart about your organization. And then you start interacting and saying, based on everything you know about my organization, my mission, the values, all these impact stories, the people we serve, customer feedback, right? So if you're collecting a lot of survey feedback from the people you're serving, or even donors, you throw that survey in there. It's going to learn from the surveys. It's going to start correlating information. It's going to start saying, okay, this is what people are saying about the organization, this is the mission, and then you ask questions about, can you help me write something? Maybe I'm going to be writing a board report. I'm going to be writing an email to the donors, but can you write something that is aligned with mission, values, impact, data, and it's going to start writing and producing things which are very much aligned with your organization. So that's taking it to the next level. I didn't have time to demo that, but that's taking it really to the next level of AI. And the more over time it learns, the more you feel like it's like you. And it's not generic.
Instructed to speak more friendly, speak more. And you can even say that. So now that you see our way of speaking, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, then you can add that in.
You can say, write this like I would write it, or how my organization writes it.
I have a question. I know you're not the product rep, but how do you protect your information? Is it through the subscription service? In other words, if I put all this information in, how do I know that it's protected from other people and other organizations?
Sure. So everything you put in here, so this is like a big black box. So if everything you put in here, what ChatGPT is going to say is, I'm going to use this information to make myself better. I'm going to train AI on that information. So if Cindy puts in a very specific information, like YMCA is XYZ. So far as of today, nobody can go into that black box and say, find me what Cindy said on March 21st about this. That hasn't happened yet. But it's gonna, if you give it an idea, like, oh, I've run this campaign before, it's gonna take that idea, it's gonna correlate with other things. It might give that idea back to another organization. So what I tell people is, don't put something that is so secretive or unique to your organization that you don't want someone else to use. So if you think you can patent it, don't put it in this. Right? And don't put social security numbers, don't put any of that stuff. But at the same time, you don't have to be that afraid that you're just putting in generic website data. You can take it to the next level. You could potentially put in some customer feedback if you anonymize it. If you're writing a lot of grants, you can put your past grants in there, till you clean up the data and there's no personal information in there. I think that stuff is fine. Nobody's gonna go in and say, oh, this nonprofit organization wrote this in ChatGPT on this day, right? But if you have ideas, it will absolutely take those ideas and possibly give it to someone else. So if you think that you don't want that, then you don't want to put that in there.
And if you're in the 4.0, isn't it, you're down to 1%, you can go and do things that, are you seeing that?
No, so 4.0, it's still, they can
No,
still
it's
use
not.
the data. It's only when you start creating your own GPTs, which is what we do for our clients, then you can say, don't use my data anywhere. And that's the ultimate privacy.
With 12, we're gonna get the signal that's all too, so we just wanted to thank, was that the, yeah, oh, good.
Yeah, so I'm going to just end, experiment with it, try it.
And then we also have the QR code up here and stuff there. And